Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Arvan tells a story. Okay, now I'm gonna tell you about Spain. Yeah, Spain, or the Kingdom of Spain, is a country in southwestern Europe with parts of territory in the Atlantic Ocean and across the Mediterranean Sea. The largest part of Spain is situated on the Iberian Peninsula. Its territory also includes the Canary Islands in the Atlantic Ocean, the Balearic Islands in the Mediterranean Sea, and the autonomous cities of Ceuta and Melilla in Africa. The country's mainland is bordered to the south by Gibraltar, to the south and east by the Mediterranean Sea, to the north by France, Andorra and the Bay of Biscay, and to the west by Portugal and the Atlantic Ocean, with an area of 500 and 505,990 km square. Spain is the second largest country in the European Union and with a population exceeding 47.4 million. The fourth most populous EU member states, Spain's capital and largest city is Madrid. Other major urban areas include Barcelona, Valencia, Seville, Zaragoza, Malaga, Murcia, Palma, the Mallorca, Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, and Bilbao. Okay, anatomically modern humans first arrived in the Iberian Peninsula around 42,000 years ago. Pre-Roman people dwelt in the territory in addition to development of coastal trading colonies by Phoenicians and ancient Greeks and the brief Carthaginian rule over the Mediterranean coastline. The Roman conquest and colonization of the peninsula ensued, bringing a Roman acculturation of the population. Hispania remained under Roman rule until the collapse of the Western Roman Empire in the 4th century, which ushered in the migration of Germanic peoples and the islands into the peninsula. Eventually, the Visigoths emerged as the dominant power in the peninsula by the 5th century. In the early 8th century, most of the peninsula was conquered by Umayyad Caliphate, and during early Islamic rule, Al-Andalus became the dominant peninsular power. Centered in Cordoba, several Christian kingdoms emerged in northern Iberia, chief among the Leon, Castile, Aragon, Portugal, and Navarre, and over the next 7 centuries. An intermittent southward expansion of these kingdoms, known as Reconquista, culminated with the Christian seizure of the Emirates of Granada in 1492. Jews and Muslims were forced to choose between conversion to Catholicism or expulsion, and the Morisco converts were eventually expelled. The dynastic union of the Crown of the Castile and the Crown of Aragon was followed by the annexation of Navarre in 1580. Incorporation of Portugal. In the wake of the Spanish colonization of the Americas after 1492, the Crown came to hold a large overseas empire, which underpins the emergence of a global trading system, primarily focused by the precious metals extracted in the New World. Centralization of the administration and further state building in mainland Spain ensued in the 18th and 19th centuries, during which the Crown saw the loss of the bulk of its American colonies. A few years after the Peninsular War, the country veered between different political regimes, monarchy and republic, and following 1936 until 1939 devastating civil war, a fascist dictatorship that lasted until 1975. Spanish art, music, literature, and cuisine have been influential worldwide, particularly in Western Europe and the Americas. As a reflection of its large cultural wealth, Spain has the fourth largest number of world heritage sites, 49. Wow. And is the world's second most visited country. Its cultural influence extends over 570 million Hispanophones, making Spanish the world's second most spoken native language. Spain is a developed country, a scholar parliamentary democracy, and a constitutional monarchy, with King Felipe VIII as head of state. Is six, yeah. King Felipe VI as head of state. It is a high-income country and an advanced economy, with the world's 14th largest economy by nominal GDP and the 16th largest by PPP. Spain has one of the longest life expectancies in the world at 83.5 years in 2019. It ranks particularly high in healthcare quality, with its healthcare system considered to be one of the most efficient worldwide. It is world leader in organ transplants and organ donation. Spain is a member of the United Nations, the European Union, the Eurozone, the Council of Europe, the Organization of Ibero-American States, the Union for the Mediterranean, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, an Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the World Trade Organization, and many other international organizations. Okay, so we will have history of Spain. Archaeological research at Atapuerca indicates the Iberian Peninsula was populated by hominids 1.2 million years ago. In Atapuerca, fossils have been found of the earliest known hominins in Europe, Homo antecessors. Modern humans first arrived in Iberia from the north on foot about 35,000 years ago. The best known artifacts of this prehistoric human settlement are the famous paintings in the Altamira cave of Cantabria in northern Iberia, which were created from 35,600 to 13,500 BCE by Cro-Magnon. Archaeological and genetic evidence suggests that the Iberian Peninsula acts as one of several major refugia from which northern Europe was repolluted following the end of the last ice age. During the Second Punic War, roughly between 210 and 205 BCE, the expanding Roman Republic captured Carthaginian trading colonized along the Mediterranean coast. Although it took the Roman nearly 2 centuries to complete the conquest of the Iberian Peninsula, they retained control of it for over 6 centuries. Roman rule was bound together by law, language, and the Roman road. The cultures of the pre-Roman populations were gradually Romanized, and different rates depending on what part of the peninsula they live in, with local leaders being admitted into the Roman aristocratic class. Hispania served as a granary for the Roman market, and its harbors exported gold, wool, olive oil, and wine. Agricultural production increased with the introduction of irrigation projects, some of which remain in use. Emperors Adrian, Trajan, Theodosius I, and the philosopher Seneca were born in Hispania. Christianity was introduced into Hispania in the 1st century CE, and it became popular in the cities in the 2nd century. Most of Spain's present languages and religion and the basis of its laws originate from the period. In the late 2nd century, starting in 170, incursions of North Africa and Maori in the province of Baetica took place. Under Islamic law, Christians and Jews were given the subordinate status of dhimmi. This status permitted Christians and Jews to practice their religions as people of the book, but they were required to pay a special tax and had legal and social rights inferior to those of Muslims. Conversion to Islam proceeded at an increasing pace. The Mullahids are Muslims of ethnic Iberian origin, are believed to have formed the majority of the population of Al-Andalus by the end of the 10th century. In 1793, Spain went to war against the revolutionary New French Republic as a member of the First Coalition. The subsequent War of the Pyrenees polarized the country in a reaction against the Galician elites, and following defeat in the field, peace was made with France in 1795. The Peace of Basel, in which Spain lost control over 2/3 of the island of Hispaniola. In 1807, a secret treaty between Napoleon and the unpopular Prime Minister led to a new declaration of war against Britain and Portugal. French troops entered the country to invade Portugal, but instead occupied Spain's major fortresses. The Spanish king abdicated, and a puppet kingdom settled to the French Empire was installed with Napoleon's brother, Joseph Bonaparte, as king. The Spanish Civil War broke out in 1936 on 17 and 18 July. Part of the military carried out a coup d'etat that triumphed in only part of the country. The situation led to a civil war in which the territory was divided into two zones. One under the authority of the Republican government that conferred on outside support from the Soviet Union and Mexico and from international brigades, and the other controlled by the Putschists, the nationalist or rebel faction, most critically supported by Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. The Republic was not supported by the Western powers due to the British-led policy of non-intervention. General Francisco Franco was sworn in as the supreme leader of the rebels on 1st of October 1936. An uneasy relationship between the Republican government and the grassroots anarchists who had initiated a partial social revolution also ensued. In 1962, a group of politicians involved in the opposition to Franco's regime inside the country and in exile met in the Congress of the European Movement in Munich, where they made a resolution in favor of democracy. With Franco's death in November 1975, Juan Carlos succeeded to the position of King of Spain and head of state in accordance with the Francoist law. With the approval of the new Spanish Constitution of 1978 and restoration of democracy, the state republic mass authority to the regions and created an internal organization based on autonomous communities. The Spanish 1977 amnesty law let people of Franco's regime continue inside institutions without consequences. Even perpetrators of some crimes during transition to democracy, like the massacres of 3 of March 1976 in Port Victoria or 1977 massacres of Atocha. Economy. Spain's capital's mixed economy is the 14th largest worldwide and the 4th largest in the European Union, as well as the Eurozone's 4th largest. The center's right government of former Prime Minister Jose Maria Aznar works successfully to gain admission to the group of countries launching the euro in 1999. Unemployment stood at 17.1% in June 2011, as 17 below Spain early 1990s unemployment rate of at over 20%. The youth unemployment rate, 35% in March 2018, is extremely high compared to the EU standards. Perennial weak point of Spain's economy include a large informal economy and an education system which OECD reports place among the poorest of development countries, along with the United States. By the mid-1990s, the economy had commenced the growth that had been disrupted by the global recession of the early 1990s. The strong economic growth helped the government to reduce the government debt as a percentage of GDP, and Spain's high unemployment rate began to steadily decline. With the government budget in balance and inflation under control, Spain was admitted into the Eurozone in 1999. Since the 1990s, some Spanish companies have gained multinational status, often expanding their activities in culturally close Latin America. Spain is second biggest foreign investor there after the United States. Spanish companies have also expanded to Asia, especially China and India. This is early global expansion. Its competitive advantage over its competitors and European neighbors. The reason for this early expansion is the booming interest towards Spanish language and culture in Asia and Africa, and corporate culture that learns to take risks in unstable markets. Spanish companies invested in fields like renewable energy, commercialization. Iberdrola was the world's largest renewable energy operator. Technology companies like Telefonica, Abengoa, Mondragon Corporation, which is the world's largest worker-owned cooperative, Movistar, Hisdesat, Indra Train manufacturers like CEF, Talgo Global Corporations such as the textile company Inditex, petroleum companies like Repsol or Cepsa, and infrastructure with 6 of the 10 biggest international construction firms specializing in transport being Spanish, like Ferrovial, Acciona, ACS, OXL, and FCC. In 2005, Economist Intelligence Unit's quality of life survey placed Spain among the top 10 in the world. In 2013, the same survey, now called the Where to Be Born Index, ranked Spain 28th in the world. In 2010, the Basque city of Bilbao was awarded with the Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize, and its mayor at the time, Iñaki Azcuna, was awarded the World Mayor Prize in 2012. The Basque capital city of the Vitoria-Gasteiz received the European Green Capital Award in 2012. Okay, let's talk about education. State education in Spain is free and compulsory from the age of 6 to 16. The current education system is regulated by the 2006 Educational Law. Ley Orgánica de Education, or Fundamental Law for the Education. In 2014, the LOA was partially modified by the newer and controversial LOMCE Law, or Fundamental Law for the Improvement of the Education System, commonly called Ley Wert. Since 1970 to 2014, Spain has had 7 different educational laws: LGE, LOECE, and ATC. The levels of education are preschool education, primary education, secondary education, and post-16 education. In regards to the provisional development education or the vocational education, there are 3 levels besides the university degrees: the formation, provisional basica, the ciclo formativo, the grado medio. This means medium level vocation education, which can be studied after studying the secondary education, and the ciclo formati, the grado superior. This is higher level vocational education, which can be studied after studying the post-16 educational level. And the program for international student assessment coordinated by the OECD currently ranks to the overall knowledge and skill of Spanish 15 years old as significantly below the OECD average of 493 in reading literacy, mathematics, and science. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye. See you soon in another video.